English doctors and engineers are designing new, simple ventilators. They're hoping to produce thousands a week, and Sky News science correspondent Thomas Moore has that story.
Okay, Andrew, here's the pneumatic component.
Right, I'll take the red end.
Fire that up.
This could be the answer to the NHS's prayers. A prototype ventilator so simple that thousands of them could be made within a fortnight.
Shall I put the compressed air in?
Yes, please. Yep.
Fast enough to meet the expected surge in patients critically ill with coronavirus.
Are you ready to intubate?
It's the first time it's been tested on a medical dummy. And it works, the chest rising and falling. All controlled by a jumble of wires and electronics for now, but Sony has offered to turn them into a mass-produced circuit board, 5,000 of them a week.
If this is something you can knock together in a weekend, mass producing it will be dead simple. We can go from this little rat's nest to a very clean PCB circuit board in the space of a couple of days.
A week ago, engineers and anaesthetists at Oxford University started to brainstorm the government's urgent call for more ventilators. Their stripped-back design lacks the bells and whistles of modern machines. Compressed air squeezes a bag in a box, blowing oxygen into the lungs reliably and safely.
We have gone back to basics. We've gone back to probably the state of ventilators 10 or 15 years ago, which is no big problem. We've also used components that we already have on the shelf. We've repurposed them. It can't break, there's no motors to burn out, there are no moving parts to snap. And it can be assembled very easily by anyone with the plans we're going to make freely available to any fabricator who we can get on board. It's simple, but it will keep people alive.
COVID-19 has overwhelmed well-resourced hospitals in northern Italy, alarming doctors in Britain. The NHS has just over 8,000 ventilators. The government says 30,000 will be needed.
Innovation is needed in ventilators and ventilator production, and so we're working very hard to work with the business community, who are really putting their fingers out on a whole variety of fronts to help build new ventilators and make sure that as many are available as possible. But, I mean, to be honest, there isn't a country in the world that has the stocks of ventilators that are needed when you have a pandemic like this.
The Oxford team pitched their design to the Cabinet Office on Monday. 2 hospitals are on standby to test it on coronavirus patients. It might be simple, but in the coming weeks, it could be a lifesaver.
Because of its small population, Iceland has tested more people per capita than any other nation in the world. Sky News correspondent Willem Marks brought up an up-close look at the country's effort to test everybody.
For the past few weeks, Detective Gesta Palmason has been chasing down leads and pursuing suspects. He's on the hunt for COVID-19. Today, it's his turn to join the lineup and face a swab.
Well, I'm just hoping it comes back negative so I can keep on doing the job.
This test offered a brief break from his work at Iceland's National Crisis Centre, where he and dozens of other detectives are tracking every single case of coronavirus in the country.
What's at stake with the work you're doing?
Well, I mean, every second somebody's getting infected. So obviously we want as few people infected as we possibly can, which means that as quickly as we can, we have to reach everyone that might have been in contact with someone who's positive and try to stop them before they get in contact with more people.
This office building next to a shopping mall on the edge of Reykjavik is at the heart of Iceland's testing program. Every day, hundreds of people with no COVID-19 symptoms come here to find out whether they're carriers of the virus.
Iceland started testing non-symptomatic members of the public at the start of February. Thanks to its small population, it's tested more citizens per capita than anywhere else in the world. And the small country's chief epidemiologist, Thorolfur Gudnason, says the strategy may be working.
It's very important to test very aggressively. We put those who test positive in isolation, and we do contact tracing very aggressively also. We put all contacts in quarantine And it's interesting that more than half of those who we are diagnosing now are actually in quarantine when they're diagnosed, which means that our policy of quarantine is probably very effective in minimizing the epidemic.
This has allowed authorities here to delay the closure of bars and restaurants like in many other major cities. Some stores remain open. People still walk the streets and explore the great outdoors, weather permitting.
What makes Iceland such an ideal place to better understand how this virus spreads is not only its low population density, but also its extremely remote geography. There are simply so few ways to actually get here.
That's helped scientists learn who's transmitting the virus, when they spread it, and how long till it vanishes from their system. Around 1 in 5 high-risk residents, returning travellers and those exposed to known carriers have tested positive. But according to the biotech CEO behind this vast testing program, roughly 1% are proving to be carriers unknowingly.
When you look at all of this in context, you have a model system, and you can basically begin to mirror what you see in your own country to what you're seeing in Iceland.
Kári Stephenson started the biotech firm that's carrying out the tests. Thanks to the genetic expertise in his company's labs, every individual sample of the virus can be sequenced to see how its molecular barcode is mutating.
And these mutations, in addition to providing us with a barcode, they may be giving us an indication of how the virus is changing and potentially becoming more virulent. Or another possibility is that these mutations may make the coronavirus a seasonal phenomenon like the influenza.
And it's this information that's key for medical professionals.
There is no best way to do this, but we are using science and the best evidence there is every moment.
Alma Muller is her nation's top doctor. She must decide how best to allocate finite resources.
We are trying to estimate what is likely, but also the worst case scenario. And the worst case scenario goes, of course, beyond our reserve. So we are working very hard now to extend our intensive care services and our hospital services.
Iceland is gearing up for the same fight every country faces. But thanks to its aggressive testing policy, it's doing so with far more information.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.